Hello and welcome. This is Dr. Shaheen Ghadir, and I'm an expert in the world of fertility, the area that I love and have deep passion for. I have helped thousands of people around the globe start their beautiful families, and in this podcast, The Fertile Life, I interview guests about their paths to parenthood and dive into discussions around how the road to becoming a parent shapes us. Also looking at the balance between family and many responsibilities life demands from us. And we'll be discussing the challenges that we encounter along the way. Through insightful conversations, I hope to create a guide for listeners in all stages of life and break many stigmas often associated with fertility. We will also share all the health and wellness tips my guests and I have learned over the years. Follow along as I take you on a journey towards the fertile life. Welcome. I am so excited today to talk to Carson again. Carson is one of the best doulas in Southern California, and she's amazing. We've had the opportunity to speak before. I was really excited that we're going to have this opportunity to speak again. One of the things I love to do is allow my guests to kind of introduce themselves and talk a little bit about what they do, so all of our audience will know. So Carson, it's all yours. Tell us about yourself again.
Thanks so much for having me. My name is Carson. I am a birth doula, I'm a birth photographer, and I'm also, I started a skincare line a few years ago called Sea in the Moon.
And we're going to definitely talk about that because I was lucky enough to get some gifts sent to me from Carson that I absolutely loved. And I'm not one of those people that loves a million products like many people do, but this one was amazing. So one of the things I think is amazing is that once we get patients pregnant and they move off, we have so much hand-holding going on in my practice that is based on fertility and trying to get lovely patients pregnant and move on. I think that having someone else like a birth doula that is not just there the day of your birth, by the way. You know what, let's just stop right there. Can you let us know how this process works when you're watching a patient, when you start to get involved and how you do this? Because I want really everyone to understand what it means to be a birth doula and how that helps them during this entire process of pregnancy.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up such a great point. I think a lot of people think of doulas as, well, just somebody who's there at a home birth or for an unmedicated birth, but someone that's really just there for the birth. And I always tell my clients, yes, the birth is the very special day that we're all waiting for and so excited for. But most of my work comes in the prenatal time and in the preparation throughout pregnancy. And, I was at a birth yesterday of somebody who hired me a week before her due date. So sometimes that happens. Although she was in my class, so we got to build that foundation together. But then, now more and more I'm building these connections from sometimes before getting pregnant, before the pregnancy test, and then like really early on in the first weeks of pregnancy. There is so much, as you know, that goes on pre-conception, but also throughout pregnancy that deserves it's equally important to have that support.
So one of the things that I absolutely love, let's talk a little bit about preconception and then early pregnancy, are two things I want to talk about. I think that the preconceptional time is so important and people just treat it like, okay, I'm just going to do everything I normally do and then pray that I get pregnant. And many people are lucky enough to do so. But there are so many things that you can do during that preconceptional time to increase your chances and take care of yourself and take care of your body to do better. Can you please kind of just touch base on some of the basic, most important things that you would love for every single woman in this world preconceptionally to be doing?
Oh, yeah. I love this question. I think, unfortunately, because of the toxic world we live in, which we're learning more and more every day, right? Sperm count, egg quality is just being threatened by the chemicals we're using in skincare, in personal care products, the chemicals in our air and in our water, some of which are out of our control, and change happens on a more systemic, activist level. So, I don't like to put the pressure or the responsibility on the mother to, get rid of these chemicals, because a lot of them are completely out of all of our controls, unfortunately. But there is so much we can do to help to eliminate these toxins. There's a study called the HERMOSA study that you might be familiar with that I think is a really, for me, it makes me happy and excited and in a daunting subject. And then also is proof that these changes actually make a huge impact. So the HERMOSA study took, looked at about 100 teenage girls, tested their blood and urine, just baseline, and then had them do detox their just makeup. So not even cleaning products, laundry detergent, things like that, literally just makeup, and take out a lot of endocrine disruptors. I think they focused on 4 different endocrine disruptors. And in just 3 days, their levels dropped by 45%.
Wow. It's shocking. It's
our
shocking.
body is, right, like we are a detox machine, and when we don't overload with chemicals, and we are meant to detox. So I think that's really exciting and proof that, really being conscious about what you're putting in and on your body. Preconception is so important, and babies are being born with 200 man-made chemicals in their cord blood.
Wow.
So the more you shouldn't be detoxing in pregnancy. So it's imperative to be doing it beforehand. So that's one thing. Really starting to focus on nutrition, organic fruits and vegetables, really good high quality meats, healthy fats and proteins. Starting with a prenatal before pregnancy is also really important. And then, I think things that you probably recommend all the time, which is meditation, acupuncture. Those are evidence-based when it comes to supporting conception and our fertility.
So I'm so glad you touched on things that only didn't have to do with nutrition and chemicals, because the brain, most important, one of the most important organs of our body, it has to be addressed. It has to be ready. It has to be prepared. It has to be calm. It has to be ready, full of love and positive energy to implant and have a healthy pregnancy grow. So I'm going to let you touch on that. I love that.
Yes, I am. Yeah, I think that's a huge part. And, when you talk about even detoxification, right? When we're in fight or flight, our body's number one priority is survival, right? And so it not only is it hard to be healthy and to detox the body, but to welcome in life, right? On a physical and emotional level. I always say, like, our body doesn't know the difference between good stress and bad stress, unfortunately. So even those who maybe are thinking like, no, I'm good, I feel great, right? I'm living this great life, I'm in a wonderful relationship. Sometimes it's even just the inability to slow down that our body recognizes as a major stressor. And then even sometimes, some of my mentors, one Lori, who, I know we both love. We talk about having, I remember her telling me early on, like with clients, she would be like purge writing, right? Like writing letters, like literally overnight, having somebody who had been trying for years, like the minute they addressed something, an emotional block in their body, right? Like whether it's working through your own relationship with your parents or something with your partner, anything in your life, like it just kind of gives way for the body to be able to hold a little bit more.
I love that. So, and one of the things I think people need to prepare themselves and get to the point is that this should be done like in some ways effortlessly. So you get it in order, you get it together, but like it shouldn't be suffering and struggling to eat organic fruits and vegetables, good quality meats, and to take some time out every day to clear your mind and to take a deep breath and to love yourself. I don't think that this should be something that takes a lot of effort. It may take some organization for people that are unaware and unfamiliar with doing this, but I think that it's a great idea to get to the point that this just becomes a part of your life when you are getting ready to create life inside of you. So, I think that's so important. And thank you again for bringing up the pre-conceptional time period. But let's talk about early pregnancy. So I think like people hire you when they're 6 months pregnant, 8 months, 9 months before pregnancy. I can tell you from seeing patients here in my clinic that are pregnant and the early conception weeks, they're not doing that great. Some of them are having nausea, vomiting, the exhaustion that goes along. I would love for you to kind of address what you do during that time period. And I want people to understand the benefit of having a coach, a doula, a confidant in this process that early on as well.
Yeah, I think those early days, weeks, months even, they can be really isolating. And we live in a culture where we're not supposed to tell anybody, right? When you get pregnant, like there's this expectation that you, and some people do, but I think because of the taboo around loss in our culture, and I think that's changing, which is beautiful, but right, a lot of people wait. And I also think sometimes it's also something you just want to hold within you and your partner for a little bit. So I think in that time, because of that, some people don't feel like they have the support that maybe a new mother might have to be able to talk about or reach out to others who have been through something similar or can, be there for them. So having a doula is a nice, I think, way to have that support early pregnancy when maybe others don't know, but also, and I hear this from new mothers all the time after giving birth, but there's also this expectation when you find out you're pregnant or when you just give birth that it has to be the best time of your life, right? And so to feel like shit and to,
So thank you for using those words. I don't know whoever said that expectation, but that is not true.
Yeah.
Having lived through, 3 deliveries and 4 kids in my household, those first couple of months, no one's feeling that great. And I think expectations need to be there. But we, I think, as Americans, have a culture that does not support that either. Every other culture that I'm aware of puts the woman who is delivered on a pedestal for the next 40 days after they deliver. And we're going to go there. I promise. I'm so sorry. I get very excited, but this is, I think, as it's parallel, equally as important for us to address that beginning part. And you said it so well, because I didn't really think of it that way, but you are spot on. The isolation because of the fear of announcing that you're pregnant. And thank God people are talking about losses, because it is so common. When 15% of women miscarry in the first trimester and it's never talked about, it's very difficult. And when I remember when my wife and I had a miscarriage, we've had one, it happened after our first child was born, and it was our second pregnancy, it ended in a miscarriage. We had already told the world. So yes, that's the downside. You've told everyone you're pregnant. So for months afterwards, people are asking you, how are you doing? You have to tell them you miscarried. But at the same time, I think it's a little bit liberating to be able to talk about it and to talk about the fact that you miscarried. Many people, when you tell them you had a miscarriage, are like, oh, I had one too. Oh, I had one too. And honestly, that is the saddest way to have this out there. But I appreciate that you brought that up, because many people are being much more open about the downsides of life and the upsides of life and fertility. And in my world, talking about their infertility struggles, which is just so reassuring for the rest of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of the, social media has its pros and cons, but I do think that has given light to that topic, and also given provided community for some. And I know that, my mother's generation, and certainly my grandmother's generation, you couldn't even tell your sister. Like, it was just, there was such a, even talking about birth, right? Like, it was, there wasn't, I think, as women, the ability to really just be open and talk about the body, right? And things that come along with womanhood.
Absolutely. And I just think it's so important, and it's so interesting in how prior generations, like certain things were just not talked about. But that support that is needed in the first trimester is also, I think, really great. I think it's amazing to have a support system around you, whether you're having challenges with pregnancy or whether it comes easy for you. That support when you do get pregnant is so important. I think a doula, for many people, that is someone maybe more professional, more understanding, completely aware, rather than their best friend. And it is a no judgment zone that gives some of the best support that there is. Can you please let everyone know how it works, like once you're pregnant? And I know that you have classes, and I know that you support people all the way through. Can you tell people how often, where, how? I just want people to kind of understand how this works.
Yeah, so every doula works a little bit differently, and how they provide support. I usually meet with my clients. We do about 3 sessions before the birth. And these are more the structured, like talking about childbirth education, comfort measures in labor, creating the birth plan or the birth intentions. But what I found over the past year in COVID, doulas weren't allowed in the hospitals for about half of this time. And I think just because of the change in everything in our lives, I saw so many parents become so much more passionate and curious about preparing for birth. A, because they were scared that their doula might not be able to be there. The partners had this new responsibility of like, oh, it might just be me. Like I have to play all these roles all of a sudden. And so there was just such a strong desire to learn and absorb. And so that inspired me to start Growing Together, which is a 12-week virtual circle for expecting mothers. It has been the greatest blessing of this time. I love it so much. And so now all my clients take that class as well. So not only are they meeting with me the 3 times separately, but if they're in the class, then we're meeting every week. And there's also a bunch of other women in the class who are offering their experience and their support. And it's just beautiful. And so we do that. I'm in the process of becoming certified as a nutrition consultant for pregnancy, which, to what you were saying, right, that first trimester just not being the most fun for everyone. And as I was getting clients earlier and earlier, I was like, I felt like nutrition was my best bet of supporting them through that time and really helping them to just like find other alternatives to sometimes it just is time. And then sometimes there's really some great changes I found through nutrition. So I offer that. And then day of the birth, I'm there as needed, when needed. And I am, like you said, non-judgmental support, providing massage, all different comfort measures. And then, most importantly, being an advocate in especially the hospital setting, making sure that my clients' needs are being met, voices are being heard, and that they are in kind of just full control of their birth and their body.
It's so nice. Let's talk about the name you picked for your class. I absolutely love that. Growing Together. That's a good one. Did that come to you easily, or was that a lot of, that's such a good name.
Thank you. I gotta say, it felt really right. I don't know how it came to me, but I felt honestly like, and this is how I always approach my work. I don't have kids, right? And so yes, I'm an expert in birth, and this is the work that I do, and I read all about it. And I've seen so many women give birth, but I feel like every day I'm growing. And I always say that every birth I attend, I know less, because birth is no 2 births are ever the same.
No.
Right. Part of being on this journey is really, I think, just like keeping this open mind. And I'm somebody who's always so curious, always feel like I'm learning more. And my clients teach me everything, right? Like, yes, I did my training. Yes, I got certified, but I learned from them. And so I really wanted it to feel, growing together as like they're all physically and emotionally growing together, but also like I'm growing with them as a doula, as a woman. Like they give me so much in that class too.
I have to tell you, for my 4 years of obstetrics and gynecology residency, I loved doing deliveries. It was one of the most special experiences to be able to be a part of and to be there. And I was, as a resident, it's a little different sometimes in private practice. They just call you and you go over there for the last 10 minutes of the delivery. But we used to check on the patients all day long, and sometimes even 2 days long, 3 days long, depending on the induction or anything else like that. So that bond that you got to build and be there for patients during that most unbelievable moment. I wanted to share the story. A couple months ago, I got someone sending me a message on my Instagram saying that, are you Dr. Shaheen Ghadir that used to work at Kaiser Permanente in the year 2000? And I said, yes. She's like, well, you delivered me. And she sent me a picture of herself when she was a baby. And she said, I looked you up and I saw that you have an Instagram page and all that you're doing right now. And I wanted to reach out and thank you for bringing me into this world. And I was touched. I was so incredibly touched because she just, she looked at her birth certificate. My name was there. I don't think there's one other person in the world or the country that has the name Shaheen Ghadir. I did find on Facebook someone named Ghadir Shaheen, but it's a woman that lives in Morocco, and we're friends on Facebook, but I don't really know her.
Is so special. I always say that.
I loved it.
Getting to be the first hands, if you're a midwife or a doctor, sometimes it's the partner or the mom, but the first hands that get to touch that life and that baby, that human as they come forth. It's really sacred. That's so
Absolutely.
beautiful.
With love and with good positivity and good energy, I really believe in that a lot. So
Oh,
that was really special story. So that is incredible that, you know, someone gets to have someone so experienced like yourself. I love that name that says growing together, because it is true. We are all growing together all the time, including myself. And anyone who thinks they know everything and they're no longer growing, it's a really bad signal. So everyone should be completely acknowledging that. Let's talk a little bit about after the delivery, because that's a time where I think we're lacking the most.
yeah.
That's when you have seen on the internet, suddenly someone delivers and 2 days later, they're wearing a bikini in the Caribbean, and that is not normal. And that is not how it happens. And I think we need to set this out there for people that deliver. Delivery takes a toll on your body. And there is basically, you know, I'm going to let you talk about the fourth trimester.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we shift all the energy and attention towards the baby after birth, but you know, a mother is born too. And if you've ever seen a placenta, you know how big and important that organ is. And it's an organ that your body grows, but then also expels and detaches from your uterus. And then you are left with a wound, essentially, inside your womb. And if that was, I would say, like, if that was external, right, like on your back or on your, you'd be like, oh, you know, everyone would be attending to it and you would be taking it easy. But because we can't physically see it, right, I think there's this expectation like, oh, mom's just tired, but she's great. But you're like, no, she has a huge wound that needs to heal. So
Let's describe a placenta for many people in this world, even people that deliver that like are not looking and watching. The placenta is massive.
huge.
It's like the size of a, let's call it a frisbee,
Yeah,
okay, or a plate. And then it's also multiple inches thick,
heavy.
totally heavy. And I
Yeah.
don't think people really understand. And this disconnects from the uterus, disconnecting your baby now from you.
Mhm.
And it is an organ that gives life and connects your baby to you. But you know, you have a very good way with things and saying things that really open up my eyes. But that's an amazing way of looking at it. If we had something peel off of our body the size of a plate, a dinner plate from your chest, people would be like, she needs to be taken care of. She needs to rest in
Oh
bed.
my gosh, yeah, we would be like, just it would be all about her, right? We're taking it easy. You wouldn't be like expected to maybe take care of a brand new baby all day, all night by yourself.
And that's why the fourth trimester, called the puparium, is in many cultures 40 days, and 40 days that people just allow a mom to do nothing other than breastfeed and bond with the baby, and everything else is done. In some cultures, for 40 days, the mom doesn't leave bed. I've got to tell you, since our practice up to this year had about 25 to 30% of our practice was from mainland China. When I went to China, I didn't know that they have maternity centers. So from the hospital, you check in to these beautiful centers that wait on you hand and foot and do everything for you for the next 6 weeks.
Wow.
How amazing is that?
Yeah. No, they're like, it's like a hotel for after giving birth, right? Where you just get cared for.
Exactly.
It is so important. It
We
is.
haven't even heard of that in the US. A week later,
Oh,
people are trying to work, and like a couple of weeks later going back to work. So it's shocking. But
so
that's such an important period.
yeah, and I think, you know, the first 40 days and what's so beautiful about it, I mean, we said the physical demands of giving birth and recovering from that alone, not to mention the placenta detaching, the emotional aspect, whether that's the hormones or just what I call, you know, the natural grief process of, you know, with the birth. There's also this death of, if you're a first time mom, the death of that identity as you as an independent person. All of a sudden, right now you have a new identity, and there's a grief that comes along with that I think is natural to a certain extent to go through those emotions. And then I think what really, I mean, that's one thing, but then where the real challenge comes in is then, like you said, the expectation not only to look a certain way, you know, get back in shape and all that that rhetoric that's so toxic, but also to just, take care of this new life, take care of this new you, but also like return emails and be present in other relationships and kind of try and just add the baby in. And I think that's where our culture really goes wrong too, is we don't really allow, and that's where, circling full circle to what we started our conversation about, right? The me time preconception, that acupuncture, that meditation, right? That valuing of our health and of our mental health and of our ability to slow down, say like that will serve the postpartum more than anything ultimately, because the less you can put on your plate, I think the better you can heal through postpartum.
And during the postpartum, I'm also glad that you said this, because it's those same things, that mental aspect, when your hormones are crashing and you have no sleep and your day and night make no difference, it is a very important time to be able to completely take control of your mental and emotional well-being and make sure that you're in charge. And again, I can't say this enough, the support that is needed, and make sure that your support system is great. And that's why I think for some people that don't have that perfectly or want an exceptional experience afterwards, a doula is a big, big part of that. Do you help people with diet afterwards? Not diet to lose weight, but in terms of like what to eat that's good for you?
Yes. That's something I'm also, so my school right now is pregnancy, postpartum, and then actually for babies, integrating food into their life after or through and after breastfeeding. But yes, I mean, the postpartum nutrition is so important.
So important.
Whether it's the foods you're eating, but also literally remembering to eat and being fed, right? And having that prepared. And that's why the book, the first 40 days, is so special. And I tell all my clients to get it. It's to prepare to nourish yourself. So if you're someone who maybe doesn't have a lot of support or family near, to like freeze a bunch of soups and meals. So that's not something you have to think about, but that you're not just, snacking on a bag of chips between breastfeeding, but you're healing, but also you're now feeding a child through your body.
Yep.
I don't think that can be done very well if you don't have the reserves to give.
Right. And I also see that people are like, I don't know why I don't have any breast milk. I'm like, because you're not eating.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not eating, you're trying to lose weight, you're already dieting, you are not resting.
Yeah.
If you don't rest, you don't make breast milk.
Yeah.
So all of these things come into play. And I think that that's wonderful. I definitely want to touch on your products. So we have a little bit of time left, and I really want to touch base on them because they are so good. And I think everyone needs to know about them. Do you want to tell us a little bit what the product line even has in it now? I'm sure it's changed since the last time we spoke.
It has changed, but not enough, because I'm a one-woman show over here, and it's a lot to run, two businesses, and I'm trying slowly but surely. I'm slowly growing. But yeah, so the Malibu Made Body Scrub is kind of my first product. It was born out of my kitchen. It is literally made out of things in my pantry. So most of it is safe enough to eat, although it's not edible. But it's funny, it's actually the men in my life who were so obsessed. And when I moved out to New York, it was my dad and my brother would make me like ship it back in bulk. And so I laugh. I'm like, if men like it, then I think
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And again, I think it's an area that in this country, people don't really necessarily address so much. In all other parts of the world, the loofah and the skin and cleansing and like bathing, like that level is a big part of life, and not here.
Too. And the lymphatic, right, massage, I think there's a lot to that. I also like that it's like spa in a jar. So I love it for my new moms, my pregnant moms. It's so nice on the belly, so moisturizing, helps with that belly itch as the skin is expanding. And then something that I always think, like the shower really is that time where we can wash it away, connect with ourselves, be alone, right? It's, to me, showers and baths have been a version of meditation.
Oh yeah.
So I love it as like this reminder of that and caring for yourself. But I recently launched through this time as well, a birth blessing candle. And this was something that, as I saw our lack of human connection and togetherness, our rituals, right? Baby showers, were
Oh,
changing.
wow.
We didn't really
Yeah.
get to celebrate new moms in the way that we might have in the past. And so the birth blessing candle is a very just really thought of as a gift for the mother, but also a gift that can be given to her community of women near or far, wherever they are in the world, and something that you light when she goes into labor, to kind of hold that light anywhere and everywhere for her, and then also used ceremonially through pregnancy, or a way for the mom to connect with herself and her baby. And I even have moms use it through conception
That's
as a way of
amazing.
calling in that baby too.
Wonderful. Oh my God. Well, thank you again. It is always fantastic to talk to you, Carson. Can you please let everyone know how they can get in touch with you if they need products, if they need services, if they need you by their side for many, many months?
Thank you. So my website is www.carson-meyer.com. And my Instagram, where I can be reached as well, is @ccmeyer. And C in the Moon is the name of my company, and that is C, the letter C, like Carson, and the moon.com. And the Instagram is C and the Moon. And then Growing Together, I'm not sure when this airs, but our next circle launches May 4th.
Oh, wow. We got to
There
get
will
people
be-
going.
Yeah, there'll be more after that, but that is the next one. So that's available for signups now.
Well, thank you for everything that you do for our community and for women that need people like you helping them. It is always a pleasure to speak, and thank you again for being with us today.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure, and I'm so glad to know that so many women are getting to start their journey with your wonderful energy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You take care of yourself and talk soon. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening today. If you've enjoyed listening, please feel free to write a review. Also, feel free to follow my Instagram at Dr. Shaheen Ghadir and message me if you need help setting up a consultation. Look forward to speaking to you soon, and I would love to help you start your family.